Welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everyone. This is Recovery Part 2 since our tech guy fucked up.
Oh my god, fuck you, David.
Our host,
it's amazing.
David O.
Like, yeah, your host, David O.
And
Eric V.
And
there
our
we
special
go.
guest host, Donnie C.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. How are you doing? With our special speaker tonight, how are you doing, Neil?
I'm doing excellent. How are you guys?
Dude, don't scare me like that. You went silent. I was like, oh shit, did we lose him now?
We're good. Yeah.
No, we're good.
No.
Neil's good on his end. We just have to make sure Eric's not fucking up. So, where are you from, Neil?
I'm from Chicago, but I'm in Denver currently.
What are you doing in Denver?
So,
if you don't mind me asking.
Just creating some space. Yeah, no, I've done a lot of transforming and a lot of changing over the past few years. That all started off with recovery, and I decided to kind of like come to the mountains, kind of create some space and just change the scenery a little bit and give myself a fresh perspective.
Nice.
And really take in each day, a little bit differently. So while I build businesses and stuff like that. So yeah,
Cool.
It's been a great experience so far.
All right, man. I dig it. When were you first introduced to recovery?
I was probably when I was a kid, with my parents. I grew up in that culture, in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as myself, introduced to recovery was when I needed to, and that was probably in my early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Early 30s. I'm 42 now. I've been sober since October of 2016.
All right. Well, that's awesome, man. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you to share your story with us. So take it away.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, my story is kind of easy. It's that story where I grew up in an alcoholic environment, and I watched my mom go through, just sit down at the kitchen table and just drink beer a day, right? And my dad, when he would get home, from work, when I was a very young kid,
Mm-hmm.
they would fight a lot. They would argue a lot. It would be physical. The cops would be called, right? And they were, and we're us kids were kind of left in the middle of that and stuff like that. And there was some abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I got hit. Being the only boy.
Oh, yeah.
And being the only boy in my family, my mom kind of took out her frustrations on my dad, on me.
Oh.
I'd be kind of like his little prince, and she'd be drinking, and she'd be like, well, your dad's little prince, I'm gonna, and she was very, very physical.
Yeah.
And I'd see, she was an alcoholic, and I would see that kind of like that alcohol, like that dead behind her eyes, and stuff. And it was a scary environment growing up.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I carried around with me. I was really against alcohol. I was really against, any type of drugs when I was a kid and stuff like that. Just being in that environment. But it was very, very easy to get sucked into, which I started to get sucked into like early. I started to get sucked into like 18 years old. Right. I started drinking like with the guys and stuff like that. Just like kids do.
Yeah.
And I got into the car business. I was a salesman, and I was a manager, and that retail type of environment, that this kind of stuff was promoted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the sayings is, or used to be, and this is back in the mid '90s, but one of the sayings was, if you know you want to hire a guy with a problem, with an addiction, whether it's drugs, whether it's booze, whether it's gambling, or something like that, because he's going to work harder to feed that addiction.
Oh, wow. That's kind of fucked up.
Yeah. Well, and that's just the way the culture was.
No, yeah, I get it.
You know, we did a lot of blow. We did, you know, we drank an awful lot. I mean, I went out almost every night of the week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this was all fun time.
Yeah.
You know, or what I thought was fun time, and it just what it felt like was I was doing it right, and my parents were doing it wrong.
Mm.
Right, and even though, you know, I started to, you know, as it goes on, you start to kind of wake up, and you're like, I don't feel the same way about drinking, and you know, you start to realize that you're getting a problem, but it's still hard to admit.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, I felt I was doing this right the whole time, and it started to snowball into this whole thing where I couldn't function without it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I realized how much I was using it to cover my anxiety. And I was wondering, I was like, well, shit, it works.
Yeah.
So I'll just use it till I don't need to anymore.
Mm.
Right. So I had this, you know, by the time I was like 30, I met my wife, or my ex-wife at that point. And I was hiding my problem. I had this anxiety that was just like crippling.
Mm.
And it had been built up from years of, you know, just drinking and hiding the real problems that were going on and stuff like that. And, you know, I met my ex-wife, and I had this anxiety, and the only thing that would stop it was alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to a point in my life where I couldn't leave the house because of that anxiety. Like, I was shaking so bad. Like, I couldn't put my chip in the card reading.
Mm.
You know, if I was at the grocery store, or if I was buying alcohol in the morning.
Mm.
At my worst, I was drinking maybe 25 to 30 of the airplane bottles of Smirnoff a day.
Holy shit.
A lot of
vodka.
I was hiding them in the couch. Yeah, and I was hiding them like in the couch cushions. I could walk around with them at work in my pocket.
Oh man.
Those are about a shot each, right?
No, I think aren't they like 2.5 ounces?
That's exactly what it is.
2.5 ounces? Yeah.
But
I'm good.
0.5 milliliters.
That's like 80 ounces.
I think it's a shot.
Is it a shot?
I don't know.
Huh.
A couple fingers.
Where a 750 mil is
Okay.
15 of them. That would be 15 of them.
That's
A
Okay.
fifth is 15 of them.
Yeah.
A lot of vodka.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was
seems
drinking
legit.
nearly 2/5 a day, almost 2/5 a day.
Yeah. That seems about
At my
right.
worst.
Ooh. Okay, go on.
Yeah.
We digress.
Yeah, and the airplane bottles get expensive.
Yeah.
But that was the way that I could hide it. Right, and I realized, and I know that I'm doing this as an alcoholic. I know that I'm drinking, and I realize that I'm an alcoholic. I just don't want to tell anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to tell my wife at the time, even though she clearly knew. She's not an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for some reason, my alcoholic brain thought that she was an idiot, and I also thought that everybody else was an idiot.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm trying to hide it, and eventually I just couldn't anymore. I had gone to detox maybe like 4 or 5 times in 2000 and I want to say 13 or 2012. I finally, like after the 5th time, I finally just said, okay, I'm not going to do this. I took all the doctor's advice. I went on Xanax. I went on Lexapro. They gave me Prozac. They started, medicating, so I wouldn't drink, which kind of worked for a little bit. Right, so that worked for as long as it worked. I went to some AA meetings. I did some group things. I found a lot of the information beneficial. I just didn't really dig. I really didn't dig the culture of it. Just to me, AA felt very overbearing. It felt overbearing, and I'll tell you what it felt overbearing to. It felt overbearing to the anxiety I felt.
Ooh,
because
yeah.
I didn't have the alcohol to overcome that anxiety to sit in an AA meeting and listen to some guy who.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
And here it's no bullshit, Nate. It's you do this, you're this for life, and it's like, wait a second. There's some very strong beliefs that I couldn't get on board in that part of the culture. You'll be an alcoholic for life. I didn't believe that. Right. But I still found a lot of good information.
Yeah.
Fast forward like 3 years, I end up getting a divorce.
Now was that like as a result of your using?
That was a result of just me being a schmuck.
Okay.
Just because I wasn't drinking, I was masking it with the pharmaceuticals, and I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
That's a big thing about my recovery is that the pharmaceuticals are just compounding the problem.
Yeah.
So in 2015, I end up getting a divorce, and I start dating, and I start, having wine with girls while I'm dating and stuff like that. I start drinking, and I'm doing okay for a couple months, just like every slip up story, all of those stories begin. Yeah, I was doing okay for a little bit, and then.
Yep.
Right, and then I realized that I can't wake up without drinking again. And I'm like, oh, shit, Neil, you did this again, dude. Come on, man. Uh-oh. So I ended up quitting my job. This is in 2016. I ended up quitting my job. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the summer off. I'm just going to get rid of everything. So I tried to get off the Xanax. That was real hard because I was taking bars at that time.
Yeah, that's dangerous, too.
I was taking all the bars I could find. Yeah.
And
you're
and drinking,
right.
Yeah.
You're going to find out. You're going to find out exactly how dangerous it was for me.
Ooh.
You forget a lot of things.
Yeah, so I'm getting off the Prozac, the Celexa, I think it was. And I actually snorted heroin that summer, too, in 2016. Right? So I'm trying to get off of everything. I quit my job just trying to get off of everything, but I'm finding everything else to try and ease the pain of the withdrawals.
Yeah.
So finally, I go through DTs. I went through DTs, I think, at least twice that summer. I went through, I don't even know how many detoxes, another 6, I believe. I started having seizures.
Ooh.
I woke up on the floor of my apartment with my tongue stuck to my teeth because I had bit it. And during a seizure, and I woke up and I was like, I can't move my mouth. So I'm like, shit, something's wrong here. And And I thought I could figure it out by myself. So I end up in October of 2016, a friend of mine does a wellness check and sends the cops over. I wasn't in good shape. I was sending out some funky texts. Not that I was going to kill myself, but that's when I read them back. That's what it sounded like. But I just felt like I was going to die in that apartment very soon. So they sent the wellness check. The cops and stuff came. Said, well, you got to come with us. And I'm like, well, what if I just say no? They're like, well, then we have to take you. I said, well, I don't want the aggravation, so I'll just go with you.
Yeah.
So I went. I ended up having another seizure in the hospital. Right, I was going through DTs again. I don't know if you know, you guys. You know what DTs are, right? It's when you're dreaming. You're dreaming while you're awake.
Yep.
Because alcoholics don't dream, right?
Yep.
So went through that, and then they decided to put me, because I had been through detox so many times that summer. They're like, okay, so we're going to put you in the psych ward for however long it takes. So I did that. I got out. I didn't feel any better. I went a year just believing that I wasn't going to live very long. They told me that my internal organs, my liver, my kidneys was so messed up. Like, dude, if you have another drink, you're fucking done.
Yeah.
So for the next year, I worked 15 hours a day, 6 days a week for 5 months straight, just to try and keep my mind off of everything. But I wasn't healthy. I was 225 pounds. I was eating cookies in bed, stuff like that. So about a year goes by, and it's November of 2017. I got a different job. I knew that I was stressing myself out. I knew that I was being unhealthy. I knew that I was killing myself, even though I wasn't drinking. Right? I felt heavy. I felt sluggish. I didn't feel human.
Yeah.
So I'm about to walk. I was about to take a shower and then go to bed. And I walk past the full-length mirror, right? I'm all fat and naked. And I stop and I look. And
I'm really sad that I'm picturing this in my head.
Well,
I am too. I can.
I don't know how to feel about that, but
imagery.
It is what it is. We'll move on.
So anyway, I'm like, I can't find my penis now. And I'm looking back at myself, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, Neil. I'm like, wow. Look at what you created. And I got real fucking honest with myself. And I looked in the mirror, and I couldn't help but cry. And I sat there and I cried and I cried and I cried, and I don't know how long I cried for. Maybe it was a couple hours. But I told myself, I'm like, here, how did we get into this position? How did I do this? Why am I running from my life? What am I running from? So I cried over that and I laughed over that. I never got in the shower for a couple hours, but I'm having this moment. I just decided, I'm like, here, I'm just going to start doing what feels good.
Yep.
Like, I'm tired of chasing rabbit holes of, what's healthy and what they should be doing, and focusing on alcohol as part of my recovery. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to focus on me and be healthy about it. Because that's the part that I wasn't focusing on in my life. And that's what I realized in that mirror. I told myself I loved myself until I believed it. Which I had to say that hundreds and hundreds of times before I actually fucking believed it.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know what? Forget about the alcohol. It's not what is going to make you feel good. It's going to be that Snickers bar, Fat Boy, or is it going to be the apple? right? Snickers satisfies is bullshit. Eat the apple, 'cause that's what's going to make you feel good. And then I started learning about meditation, and I started learning about, epigenetics, and I started learning all of this stuff. Next thing I know, 4 months later, I'm down 75 pounds.
Nice.
And I'm like, holy shit, I'm feeling great. I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, I can't believe I did it. I'm like, I'm so freaking proud of myself. And I started writing. A book. It was like 30 pages. I wrote it in like 5 days or 4 days or whatever. I put it on Amazon, and it was all my diet tips, all this stuff that I really thought was helping me, and it was all helping me. It was all great information. It was all great tips and stuff like that. And I realized that there was more than just like this recovery. Because at that point, when I wrote that book, I was like, you know what? I feel that I'm recovered. There's no that bullshit about you're never going to recover is bullshit. It's just exactly that. That's some human-made thought. That's some program that we're running. Right? And we're running this program. If I tell myself I'm an alcoholic in meetings all day, every week, or however long, for however many times a week I'm doing it, if I repeat that to myself, and I repeat that to myself in conversation, how am I ever going to change that? Is there a time where, it's okay to admit it? Yeah, there's a time. That my time is in that mirror. Right? Repeating it to yourself only confirms that you are that. It makes you harder to be anything other than that. And I started to realize that. And then I found scientific evidence or scientific explanations on what I did, like why it started working. I found a guy named Dr. Joe Dispenza told me why meditation worked. I didn't know I was doing it right until this guy explained it to me. I'm like, holy shit, I'm a genius.
Rediscovered it.
I found a guy named Bruce Lipton taught me about epigenetics, and I started researching and studying that. I was like, wow, epigenetics it's basically if you don't want to be an alcoholic, do the opposite of what your alcoholic self would do. Right? And it's in that concept, it's simple. Can I express that in pages and in words? Yeah, I can. Wow. So I start learning about that, and I start learning about this whole quantum physics connection and spirit and soul and science and how it all comes together and the language that we use. And I'm like, shit, it's not about alcoholism. Here, why did I drink? I drank because of the anxiety. What was the anxiety from? The anxiety was me running from my childhood. Right? One of the things that I learned is between the ages of 0 to 7, right? During the ages of 0 to 7, all of us we're in hypnosis. From 0 to 2, we're in a deep theta brainwave state where it's basic. It's like a download, right? You're downloading your environment.
Yeah.
And then 3 to 7, we start mimicking our environment, and it's still a hypnosis. It's still a download. These are you ever say something you don't know where it came from? You ever do something like, why the hell did I do that? That's your subconscious programming. That's your bullshit machine program. I have this thing on YouTube I call it the bullshit machine, because that's the thing where you learn that you're not good enough. Yeah, you don't deserve this unless you get good grades, or you don't deserve this unless you do this, or you don't. That's where we learn to have these personalities and these anxieties that we're running from in adulthood. That unconscious stuff that you don't even know is running in the background. I'm like, wow. So I start learning about that. And it's not the alcohol. It's the anxiety from never facing our traumas and our fears. And we're getting here. How many teachers' opinions? Think about grade school. What do you remember from grade school? was any of it true? Right? We're just being fed all this information. It's all this programming. We're being sold everything.
Mm-hmm.
Think about cigarettes. I just quit smoking last week, and I feel great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But we're programmed with we're programmed with addiction. We know that cigarettes is going to be the hardest thing ever to quit.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you see, let's just go back to like a war movie, okay? And the soldiers on the battlefield dying. What's his last request? Can I have a cigarette?
Yeah.
Right. So that's programmed into you without you even knowing it.
Yeah.
And it's like that with a lot of things. Think about what everybody's addicted to. Everybody's addicted to everything. Look at, you don't even see people talking to each other anymore, right?
Yeah.
You see people talking in the phones. They're not even talking in the phone. We're just staring at them like zombies, right? The zombie shit is real, but it's everybody staring in their phone and being in their heads about what they binge watch. And then we can't handle life because we're not in life. We're in our phones. We're in our heads. We're in our TV. We're in news. We're in everything. Yeah, I would want to drink that away too if I was unconscious about it.
Yeah.
So I learned how unconscious this really is. And my goal to quit drinking was to make it easy. Because it's not a battle. It's not a battle. It's a realization. It's a connection with you. Here, if you look at the 12 steps that Bill W. He's talking about that spiritual experience. The 12 steps work. It's beautiful. His work is beautiful. Just because Neil didn't like the culture in that particular hospital doesn't mean there's anything bad with that.
Yep.
It's worked for a lot of people. That there's a path for everybody. Right? But he's talking about that spiritual connection. So what is that? That's meditation. And there's so much we know about the what meditation does for us now.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, it changes your autonomic nervous system. We have breathing exercises. Guys like Wim Hof, you get rid of anxiety in 3-4 days using cold and breathing exercises. We know so much about this human body, and we're poisoning each other with opioids and prescriptions and all of this stuff. And we act like we're not human towards each other.
Yeah.
I see it myself.
That's a rabbit hole for a different day. But you get what I'm saying.
Joe Rogan usually handles that podcast.
There you go. Well, rabbit hole with Joe. And Joe Rogan. Like before I had that moment in the mirror, and you don't have to picture me naked again. But before I had that, I was actually, I had listened to a couple of Joe Rogan podcasts, and that just some of the way he just kind of sparked that interest in myself, and I wanted to make it, and I learned that I could make it easy. Actually, he gave me a new perspective on marijuana, how I could use that. That I took that and ran with. So yeah, Joe Rogan. It's funny that you mentioned it because he was one of those guys that we start learning, how we picked up all these things along the way. Yeah, I really start to get grateful about just how everything. It's like connecting the dots. Oh You don't know what you're doing it, so you don't know why you're doing something until after you did it most of the time. And then you can look back and actually appreciate it.
Or look back on it and be like, what the fuck was I thinking? Well, here's the thing. So that would be beating yourself up. Yeah. And that's, okay, so that's a reason to drink. If you're for some people.
Beat yourself up, Well, okay, so now think about it like this. So now that was out loud. Now, if you're beating yourself up in your head all day, right, and then somebody says something, and it doesn't have to be that bad, but since you're beating the shit out of yourself all day, you're going to instantly hit the defense.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're going to make all these chemicals. Remember, anger is a chemical. However, your reactions are a chemical.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So yeah, beating yourself up, that's giving yourself a reason to be angry later on without your knowledge. And your environment, if you're beating the shit out of you all day, how easy is it going to be for your environment to trigger you?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty easy, right? Because you're already kicking your own ass. And shit, now you're going to be pissed off that somebody else is doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good luck. The key is to not kick your own ass. So when you look back, find the love, find the everything, forgive yourself for whatever it is, and then and find the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to self-reflect, let's self-reflect honestly. It already happened. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? Woulda, coulda, shoulda, it gives... That gives me a right to have a list of fucking things that you can't say, do, or think around me, right? People with anxiety. Oh, you can't. These are my triggers. Don't do this around me. That's narcissistic. So when you keep yourself in perspective, right? You're in control of your triggers.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not beating yourself up. Mm-hmm. You're in control of who you are. Because you've meditated, you're finding peace in all this stuff. All these, turn off the phone, turn off the iPad, turn off YouTube, turn off, it's like the news. Have you like watched the? I don't watch news. I'll read articles once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm like watching all this politics stuff and whatever.
Ugh.
Just go on, and they're talking about nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And then
you're 100% true. Yeah. That is 100% right.
Right.
They're talking about absolutely fucking nothing.
Right, and you go on Twitter, you go on Facebook, and you have people talking about it, and it's more talking about nothing.
Yeah.
And it's about none of these things are happening right now. None of them. Mm-hmm. Right. So if everybody just turned everything off and got in this present moment. This moment right here, you can't find a problem right now in front of you. Anything else is in your head. Right? So if you're living in your head, there's a reason to drink. If you're living right now, if you know yourself, you know your sensation. Right here. If somebody's going to trigger me, and I can deal with my triggers, and I feel my triggers. What is a trigger? A trigger is a sensation in your body. Mm-hmm. What does that sensation do? It triggers something, a thought in your brain.
Yep.
Right? So if it triggers that thought, what's that thought? If that thought is the drink, okay, you know what? Forget about the thought now. The thought is bullshit. Not every thought you have is important. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Oh, yeah.
Most of them aren't.
You sit with the sensation. Right? Here, we're all full of shit. That's how I could become an alcoholic. I had to lie to myself. I tell myself that life was so bad that I had to drink myself into fucking seizures and DT. Right? Like an asshole. That's what I had to do. I had to lie to myself. Same thing with cigarettes. Like I said, I just quit smoking last week, and I'm like, wow, I'm elated. I can't. It's been 7 days. I'm like, I can't believe no cravings. Well, there's like cravings, but not. I sit with all of them, and it's all fear. It's telling me that life would be better with a cigarette right now, just like alcohol used to tell me that life would be better with a drink right now, and none of it was ever true. How do I know that? I sit with my triggers. Right? I sit with those triggers. People go, distract yourself. Never. You don't distract yourself. You're you. Who created those triggers? You created them. We have to look at them. It doesn't matter what you're addicted to. If it's alcohol, look at those triggers. Sit in that trigger. Sit in that emotion. And then remove the story. When you remove the story, you just sit with that sensation, and you find love in that sensation. That sensation is no longer fear, like it no longer creates fear in you. You love that sense. That's like, wow, that's a part of me. That's a part of you that you haven't seen in a long time. It's like an inner child trying to come through and tell you something. And we want to drink that away. Does this land at all?
What?
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely, man. And we definitely have some questions for you.
David will
Please.
go first.
I will go first.
Yeah.
I did defer to you last time.
Yeah, so it's your turn. to
Okay.
go first.
So, I'm a firm believer. Like you iterated it a little bit about how like alcohol wasn't the problem, and
Right.
I've always been a believer in my own recovery that I have a David problem, and that drugs and alcohol were symptoms of that problem. So, do you believe that like drugs, alcohol, food, gambling, are they all symptoms of a greater issue?
Absolutely. So think about this, and because I'm writing a book now. I don't know if I'm going to rewrite the old one, or just write a new one.
Mm-hmm.
But think about what's your first craving for anything when you're a kid is what? Is boredom. Right?
Yeah.
What do you do when you're bored? You go open the fridge. There's nothing in the fridge or whatever, and then you go back for 2 minutes later and you open it up again.
Yeah,
But instead of opening up the fridge now we have phones to look at. Right? And now when the phone, okay, well, there's nothing in here. I just surfed Twitter oh my God, I've been on here for an hour and 45 minutes. Oh my God. So I just wasted 2 hours. I distracted. You're distracting yourself from boredom. You're right. Alcohol's not the problem. It's boredom is that first craving, because we crave to do something.
Yeah.
And we never get through that. So now we got to do that as an adult. So whether it's trauma or not, because a lot of stuff that I thought was trauma was perceived trauma. It was trauma to a 2-year-old, not to a 39-year-old man, or it was 39 at the time, or a 40-year-old man at the time. But it's trauma to a 2-year-old that was never faced. So now I'm 40, I can look at it, and it was perceived. So, alcohol is not the problem. Porn is not the problem. Gambling is not the problem. Food is not the problem. Now, are there addictive substances in those things? Yes, sugar.
Absolutely.
Sugar's always good. Food's going to be a problem because we put so much sugar. Everything's high fructose, corn syrup, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Let's eat like the rest of the planet. The rest of the organisms on the planet eat what the planet gives us. Gives it, right?
Yep.
Fruits, vegetables, meat, whatever. Not shiny bags and cupcakes. I mean, it's all cool, right? But we're in a culture of we don't know moderation. So, obviously nicotine's addictive. There's alcohol. I mean, there's a benefit to all of this stuff. There's a benefit to everything we do. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. So our ego sees a benefit to it. So when you're trying to escape that boredom or escape that trauma or escape whatever it is, instead of sitting with it, you're gonna use the other thing that is the symptom.
Yeah.
And then the symptom is like, oh, well, now he's an alcoholic. Well, now he's a disease for life. Here, it's a disease, it's this, it's that. The human condition is a disease.
Yeah.
It's documented. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And we're all addicted to something.
Yeah.
Right? If you see the most confident guy at work, right? Let's just say you work in an office and you have leisure suit Larry, right? He's just super confident at work. Right? And the guy, his boss's pet, seems like his life is perfect, right? And then let's just say on the weekends you go like four-wheeling and mud and stuff like that, right? So all of a sudden you take that guy and put him in your situation, the not confident part, and then you see our egos get exposed, right? So somebody you perceive as confident and you're in the same situation, you put them in a different situation out of their comfort zone, it's going to get exposed. And then what's the addiction from that? I don't know. Is it looking in this phone? Is it pornography? Is it gambling? Is it punching people in the face?
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, how imaginative can you get?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So no, alcohol's they're symptoms. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. All right, Donnie, what do you got?
Oh, okay. I was wondering, in your day-to-day recovering life, do you interact with or collaborate with or hang out with many people that are also recovering, or do you integrate mostly with just anybody? Do you hang out with a lot of recovering people?
Well, I seem to attract a lot of people. Like, I'll meet somebody who's been sober for 12 years or has been sober for 5 years or 30 years or whatever like that. And we'll get to talking, and, so I do notice that I do attract more people in recovery, or maybe it's the conversations that I'm having. I'm not sure,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's not. From what I've learned about recovering is that, like I said, I don't exactly believe that I was just recovering from alcoholism, right? I was a real asshole, right? And there was a lot of anger behind a lot of subconscious anger behind a lot of the things that I did.
Mm-hmm.
So when I attract people now, I embrace everybody, and I embrace the uniqueness of everybody, and I embrace everybody's story,
Mm-hmm.
because that's that story that we tell ourselves, and people that are alcoholics, I'll get that vibe sometimes. They're like, oh, this guy wrote this book, and the only thing, like I'm going to try and convince them to quit, right? I get that vibe, that I'm going to try and convince somebody to quit,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to do that at all. That's your life. That's what you're doing with your life. But let me convince. I talk about people and what we are. Mm-hmm. We're way more powerful than we think. We're way more powerful than waking up at 2:30 in the morning, reaching in the couch cushion and pulling out a bottle of Smirnoff, cracking it open underneath the cover so the wife don't hear. Right? We're more powerful than that. So I'm not trying to convince anybody to quit. I don't want to convince anybody of anything. I want people to discover how powerful they really are.
Yeah, I've definitely been in the situations as the person who's not drinking, and it just seems to make everybody uncomfortable. Maybe makes them take a look at themselves.
Dude, I'll sit in a bar all night. I'm cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And people probably wonder what you're doing there.
I'll be singing karaoke. I just won't be drinking beer.
Yeah, maybe you like their chicken wings. It's none of their fucking business.
Yeah.
Stick to your highballs, Todd. Nobody was talking to you.
So here, if I really believe that it's not the alcohol, then there is no reason to fear being around alcohol.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
I don't need to drink it. I don't need to prove anything. I know what alcohol does to my body. I've educated myself on that. Alcohol kills things. That's all it does.
Yeah, it is definitely poison.
When you put the shit on your hands, that stuff that alcohol stuff that everybody thinks is good for their hands, but it's really killing all the. It just kills things. That's all it does.
Oh,
do I want to put that in my body?
Oh yeah, dude. I've seen. I used to work in childcare, and kids would slather that all over their hands and then suck on their hands, and it's like, oh Jesus Christ. Yeah.
That's how you get sicker.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So yeah, that's the answer is no. There's no reason for me to drink. But I could sit in a bar and I have sat in a bar all night, and it's okay because I'm there for the company and the experience, and usually in a bar, remember how good the bathroom smell? Yeah, that was always cool. The floor was always a little wet too.
Always.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I wanted to reminisce about the good times too. Yeah, I'm just joking.
All right, what you got, Eric?
Not every joke I have is funny. So.
Oh no, they don't all hit. They can't all be winners.
So,
Right? No, they can't.
so you were talking about kind of that first year that you were in, that you weren't drinking or using anymore, that you kind of committed yourself to working. And,
Yeah.
Something that we kind of have to be vigilant about is recognizing when addiction manifests itself in other areas of our life. And work is something I am very addicted to, so I can't talk at all. But how do you recognize the manifestations of addiction or addictive tendencies in your life, and what do you do to either curve those when those things arise, or perhaps what do you do when that happens, when those manifestations take place?
That's a good fucking
Well, and
question.
that's a great question. And I'm at a point right now where I am so interested in myself and my consciousness and all of it. I'm so interested in my self-awareness that, I meditate. I'll wake up, I'll meditate for, a half hour, sometimes an hour and a half. It depends on what I have to do that day. Right. And I'm going to wake up and I'm just going to love myself. I'm going to wake up, and you know how you wake up and you start thinking, right? And you start downloading all your bullshit, right? You start downloading the bullshit machine. It starts filling up with jet fuel, right? So I wake up and I'm actually going to put my hand on my heart, and I'm going to actually love myself. I know it might sound weird. It might sound airy-fairy, but I'll tell you what, if I don't love myself, how am I gonna love anybody else? How am I gonna help anybody else? So I'm putting that awareness on myself right at the beginning of the day. Right? And if I notice my day, if I'm going crazy, I'm just, okay, hang on a second. Let me remind myself that I'm here in this present moment. To take a look at my hands. I'm going to take a look at the trees. I'm going to feel the wind. I'm going to smell whatever I'm smelling. I'm going to taste whatever I'm tasting, cold, hot, whatever it is. That's how you de-stress. You realize that you're here in this moment. Mm-hmm. Because if you're anywhere else, you're in your head.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So here, think about it right now. Right now in this moment. And I've always known this. And I've also recently learned it from I don't know if you know who Eckhart Tolle is, but he wrote that book, The Power of Now.
Oh, so, yeah.
And one of the things he says in it, is right now in this moment. What's wrong? Mm-hmm. What problem do you have? You can't come up with anything.
Yeah.
Is it too hot? No, you're fine. Is it too cold? No, nothing is. Everything is perfect. It's the shit running in your bullshit machine, making your bullshit machine run your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm telling you that you need to go do this to be enough. And we're usually trying to get love from somebody from the past, like a parent or something like that.
Yeah.
We're a bunch of 7-year-olds running around storming, whatever we're doing.
Some invisible castle.
And
yeah.
Right. And we hate ourselves for doing it. Mm. And that's why we drink. My drinking was a direct correlation of self-hate. So was smoking. Smoking is I'm running from my own self-hate. Yeah. Why do I hate myself? Well, that's that craving. That's that boredom. That's that thing that I want to look at. Mm. So I do that every day, and I do that as much as I can. So there are no triggers anymore. There's no triggers for any of it. because I'm constantly self-aware.
Yeah.
Where I used to constantly be self-conscious.
And
Right? At your drunkest, what were the coolest stories you made up? All these victim stories, right? Everybody's out to get you. That was my thing when I was drunk. Right? And I know that's a bullshit machine now. I know that's not true. So I'm constantly aware of that. That thought doesn't have to mean anything. Right? So if I'm constantly aware of that, then that's how I stay on top of it, because I stay on top of myself and my life.
Love it.
all right. I believe
All
we have a
right.
Twitter question, Eric.
We do. And this is a group question, so all of us will answer the question. So this is from Laura, and her handle
I was
is
like, just Laura? I was like, that was it.
just Laura.
Okay.
But
What's up, Laura?
the handle is at Laura, and then a bunch of numbers.
At Laura and a bunch of numbers.
Yeah.
Yay.
So, how in recovery, how do you deal with the fear of failure? Like, so that's the question.
Oh,
How do
Jesus.
you deal with the fear of failure?
Fear of
The
feel of
feel of failure.
God, I'm tired.
This is why we don't let you talk,
I
Eric.
love that question.
Go ahead. You're
Yeah,
first.
you
for it.
floor's yours first, and then we'll do round table.
Okay, well, to deal with the fear of failure is to sit in it. When that failure shows up, you didn't choose it, but since it's there, choose it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you have this fear of failure, don't go out and try and make a decision. But when you have this fear of failure, sit in it and love that your body has that fear. It's trying to tell you something. Okay? And sit with it until it leaves. Because what that fear is, what any fear is that's the universe trying to remove what you're not. Right? So if you're afraid of failing at something, you really can't fail at anything other than your expectations. So look, whatever that sensation is, that fear is, look that right in the face and love it. Say, hey, you know what? I know you're trying to protect me. Right? And you're not really talking to it unless you are. That's okay too. But that fear is trying to protect you. But that was trying to protect a 5-year-old version of yourself or a 7-year-old version of yourself. So look at it. Sit there and cry. Your body needs to cry like it needs to fart. Okay?
Yeah.
We grew up with this macho tough guy shit. It's all bullshit, man. Here, I'll cry whenever I need to. I'm not ridiculous about it, I don't think. But
Thank you. I love you, Neil.
cry,
You're awesome.
cry with yourself, because you know who's crying is that little 3 or 5-year-old version of yourself that just wanted to be heard. Well, now you're old enough to be the parent to yourself, and you can do that. You can face that fear. That fear is not real. You made it up. It's not coming from anywhere outside of you. It can only come from inside of you. So face it. Because failure is only not meeting your expectations.
Yeah.
That's good.
A lot of like what you've been talking about is mindfulness, and that was something I've learned throughout recovery, and in different like spiritual readings of like in Eastern philosophy. But yeah, the fear of failure is it, just like you said, it's in your mind, and it's all everything like we've all been saying here is I think it's a lot easier said than done, and like it takes practice and it takes work. Just like we didn't become habitual drinkers or habitual drug users overnight, you're not gonna see yourself naked in a fucking mirror and everything's going to be okay after that. After you have that realization, like you said, like you had to tell yourself you loved yourself enough times for it to really sink in. And like, that's what it's about. It's about changing the status quo of your own thinking. And a fear of failure is a way of thinking. And, failure has produced some of the greatest things in history. Like Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times before he invented the light bulb. Like he didn't get it right for a long time. Like I understand there's an anxiety there, and there's a natural there's a healthy level of fear that you can have, and that's okay. It's when it becomes crippling and to the point of unmanageability in your life that you can't cope with it, then it becomes a problem. So yeah, you have to start training your brain to realize that fear itself and failure itself are just that. They're just ideas. They're not really real, and you can get through them. And that's where like things we talk about in recovery, like spiritual principles, to having a little bit of courage, having a little bit of faith, having a little bit of hope, having a little bit of love, will push you through those barriers. What do you got, Donnie?
Yeah, fear of failure is like was a huge part of my using, and was the cause of a lot of my using was fear of failure, with the anxiety of my efforts not being good enough to meet my expectations or whatever I thought other people's expectations of me were. So I would escape that fear by using and just escaping my reality. And so that kind of kept me stuck in life for a long time because, if anything, I didn't want to prove to myself that I wasn't good enough to do what I needed to do. And and that got to the point where it was very crippling, and and it can lead you to some dark places. But today, I like to think that I deal with it a little bit better. I'm older, a little bit wiser, and when I get to the point where I'm at a I guess maybe a crossroads, or there's something I need to do that maybe I've never done before, is to literally just, like you said, David, is to step out on faith and have some courage and just kind of like put myself out there and just give it a go. And maybe I will fail. And then that's okay too, because, I know that if I did my best and I gave it an honest try, then I can do it again, learn from it, and I won't be as afraid next time. And, and eventually, hopefully, when I'm in a situation where like it's a brand new situation and I really want to, but I'm too afraid to take that step because I already know what's going to happen in my mind, is to just kind of accept that I've had that thought and just let it go and just kind of get back to reality. I saw online, how people post those dumb like inspirational quotes.
Oh yeah,
all the time, trying to
cat hanging on a wire. Hang in there.
Yeah, or just trying to pretend like it's an original thought that they had.
Yes.
They probably didn't. But it was like when nothing is certain, then anything is possible. It's like yes, I can get that. I can get down with that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, because it kind of takes the opposite look. Because I would say
we'll put a humpback whale on that one.
Yeah, it's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, so it's probably going to be the worst possible outcome, so I'm not going to do it.
Ooh.
But now to flip it over, it's like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it could work out awesome.
Yeah.
And it could be amazing, and it could be really good for me. So that, I guess is not to say that reading that a couple of days ago has flipped my mind, but that's kind of the mindset I'd like to be in when it comes with the fear of failure. Is that like, maybe it'll work out too.
Yep.
There's always a positive way to spin things.
Mm-hmm. What do you got, Eric?
So would you mind if I add something to that?
Sure. No, go ahead.
So what I would like to add is, like, where did your expectations come from?
Oh, from me.
Right? Well, they're from you, but are they from you? So, and I'll go to a story just real quick.
Okay.
I have a client that was talking about weight loss, and he's like, well, if I'm above this number, then I'm going to beat the shit out of myself. If I'm below this number, then I'm okay, right? We all have this number. I said, well, who created that number? I said, I did. He said, I did. I said, but where did you get the inspiration for that number?
Mm-hmm.
And his dad used to call him fat all the time. That number was inspired by something that he thought would get love from his father. So his
Interesting.
expectations, 50 years later,
Yeah.
50 years later, his expectations were still controlled by his father. Okay? So that's, where did your expectations come from? And here's the other thing. Those expectations are the thing that you failed at. If you don't remember where they came from, you didn't fail. And if you didn't have the opportunity to fail, guess what you'd be? You'd be dead. Right?
Yeah.
So enjoy your failures.
Yes.
If you didn't have an opportunity to be to fail, then you'd be dead. And there's always a lesson in
Yeah.
everything.
And that's the mentality
and
I try
it's-
to have today.
And it's right. And our selfishness, my own selfishness, I'll just say this only about me. And if anybody resonates, that's fine. But my selfishness was keeping that to me. You know what I'm saying? My selfishness was projecting that failure onto other people and thinking that that's who I was. And by walking around thinking I was a failure, that hurts my relationships. That hurts my everything, my life, my job, because I'm walking around as a failure in my head. And that's selfish. People don't get to see the authentic, real me. Because if I think I'm a failure, I'm squashing my creativity. I'm squashing my creativity. I have a reason to drink. I have a reason to use, right? So be you.
Yeah. All right, Eric. You're up.
So, I mean, I'll keep this pretty short and sweet.
I fear nothing.
Well, it's not that I don't fear. I do have fears.
Are you afraid of spiders?
No. Why would I be afraid of spiders?
I don't know. Some people are.
I am.
There you go. Donnie is.
Pussy. I guess if you think about, like, my biggest thing is I don't want to look back at my life and say, what if?
Ooh.
And in order to not do that is if you are in fear of failing at getting a job or at performing a task or at possibly hitting your goal weight in your diet, then, you're going to fail if you have that fear and you never do it. So I don't want to look back on my life and say, what if? So the possibility of failing at something, okay, at least I can then look back at my life and say, at least I tried. Because I'd rather try and fail than to have never, tried at all.
Exactly.
So that's just my personal opinion.
No, that's actually a great Michael Jordan quote. You miss 100% of the shots you never take.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is like certain things where it's, I have fears, and those are different than failing. Like, I'm afraid to jump out of a airplane. I don't want to, do that, or base
Pussy.
jump. Yes, 100%. I'll take it. I don't want to base jump.
Wait, hold on. But real quick, what's the Rush line? Deciding to not make a
Yeah, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
bingo.
But yeah, no what ifs. Fuck that shit.
Yeah. YOLO. I just dabbed in studio.
Yeah,
You're
try
welcome.
and fail.
Yeah, fail on. Fail gloriously.
It's okay to fail.
Yeah, it's okay to fail. It's not gonna. I mean, it might kill you, but
It
odds
might-
are it's not
it
going
might
to.
kill
If you
you.
fail at
for
skydiving,
Yes.
you might die.
Yes,
Yeah.
if you fail at fighting a bear, you'll probably die. But don't,
Or get mauled.
just don't do those
pretty
things. Yeah,
badly,
exactly.
know?
And everybody loves a good
But
mauling
at least
story.
you had the experience.
Exactly.
You got a good story.
And I've said it a million times. That's honestly how I want to go out. I want to be mauled to death by a bear. That's my chosen way to go out.
Great job.
We'll remember it.
Yeah, when I get 75 and infirm, I'm just gonna wander out into the wilderness where
It
there's
won't
some...
be like, what did he die from again? It'll be like, David was killed by a bear.
Exactly. Yeah. How did Grandpa die? He was eaten by a bear. Fucking A, Grandpa. Way to go.
Very good.
Pretty painful death, though.
Oh, it'll be horrible,
Yeah.
but it'll be great. It'll be legendary. All right.
For
Yeah,
you.
okay. We do, yeah.
We've digressed, and I think we're out of
That's
time.
about it.
We would like to thank our guests Neil and Donnie for joining us today.
Woo! Whoa!
Thank you very much.
Donnie.
Donnie.
I did that last time, I
Donnie.
think.
Dude, you jerk.
So Neil, this is like a moment where you can promote your book and
Tell
let
us where
know
everyone
we
can find you. Why?
Yeah, okay, so you can find my book on Amazon. It's called Recovered, The Cure for Alcoholism. You can find it on my website. That's neilfirst.com. That's Neil, F as in Frank, I, R as in Robert, S as in Sam, Z as in Zebra, T as in Tom.com. Neil at neilfirst.com is my email to contact me. And real quick, I wanted to say something. We were talking about spirituality, and I know one of the things that I really, when I began, I really had trouble with was spirituality. I think whatever my subconscious disagrees with about religion, but what I feel about spirituality is, if you can get to a place where spirituality is loving yourself in this present moment right now, that's what it is. It's just loving yourself in this moment right now. And that's what I made spirituality be, or that's what I made it be to me. And that's really helped me overcome, the way, if people use words that in different ways that our subconscious might trigger a disagreement, right? So if you have a word like that, spirituality, to me, it's just loving myself in the present moment.
That's actually super amazing, because we had a guest on right before you, another speaker, completely different guy. He was dealing with schizophrenia, so not an addiction problem, but a mental health issue.
Okay.
And he literally said the exact same thing you just did. Because he said recovery is to him is not wanting to be in any other moment than the moment you're in right now, loving yourself. And I was like,
right.
So the fact that you just said that too, just
powerful.
That the whole collective conscious just all came together, and that was cool. That was fucking awesome, man.
You guys are awesome, dude. I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, man. It was a pleasure. All right. Well, everyone, here at Podcast Recovery, we are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict, wherever and whenever it is needed. We believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you again, Neil. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, check out Neil's website, like, share, subscribe, invite your friends. But most importantly, everybody out there, stay safe and stay clean.